morning. Good morning. Wow. Welcome. This is day one of the Christian Authors on Tour CAOT weekend at the historic Harlem Book Fair. And I am so honored. Look who I have here with me this morning. Max Rodriguez. How are you, Max?
Good morning, Lynn. I'm great today. Great always. God is good. God is great. Here we are. Another day of COAT and the Harlem Book Fair, advocating authors and advocating good writing.
Awesome. So this is our weekend, Christian Authors on Tour, and we're so honored to be back. But you've had some happenings this past weekend, right?
Well, this past weekend, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm so looking forward to the next thing, the next weekend. We've had a great lineup, a great launch of the book festival. We're being innovative here. We're approaching the book festival in a different manner. In the past, it was a one-day event outdoors. COVID has impacted that, so we've decided to stretch out the book fair into a series of events every Saturday in July, and we began that this past weekend. So we're looking forward to our next with Christian authors.
All right. And we're so excited. We're honored. Today's lineup is going to be amazing. We have a variety of men and women who are ready to share their book information with you, to share their hearts, to share their testimonies. But then, Max, we have a few highlights from last year, too. We had some good info that came out last year, and we just felt like it was so relevant that we just wanted to replay it for this year too. So we have a mix of the old and the new, and that's always hot, right?
Yeah, and we can say that, but my thinking about what is a new book? A new book is a book I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
So even though someone may have participated last year, we found those books to be compelling and relevant and useful. And if you haven't read it before, it's a new book.
Absolutely. And we're going to be sure to share the Harlem Book Fair website throughout the day as part of the broadcast. But Max, I wanted you to just give some insight as to the significance of the Harlem Book Fair and why it's your passion.
Well, this is the 23rd year of the Harlem Book Fair, and there's a history to our reading. Starting with that time in which we were enslaved and were not allowed access to information. Not so much, intellectual development, that too, but most importantly, information, because information is what allows us to move our lives forward effectively, right? So that access to information, how to get from here to there, who to know, where to go, what to do, all these things that we find in books as ideas, that was not allowed to us, right? So, leap forward. In the late 1800s, we had our first sort of renaissance of Black writers. Charles Chestnut, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and then 30 years from there, we had the Harlem Renaissance, right? And then 30 years from there, in the 1960s, we had this new flourishing with Terry McMillan and Waiting to Exhale and everything that happened from that. And then, I'm sorry, I missed after the Harlem Book Fair, we had the Black Arts Movement, Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, right? And then came Terry, and all of the work that followed there. So the work of the Harlem Book Fair is two things. One is to close that 30-year gap, because what happened in between those 30-year gaps? Did we stop writing? Did we stop reading? No, we just weren't the darlings of the industry at the moment. So we sort of disappeared. our job is to, one, close that gap to make sure that we're always present and that we always know that we have intellectual capital, ideas, and visions that we want to exchange and share. The second part of the book fair is to just give us all a place, a platform where our writers and our stories and our vision can be told, and make sure that's done as part of our cultural tool, that the book fair is the book fair, but more than that, it acknowledges us, we, people of color, as intellectual contributors to society, to culture, to the world.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. And I'm excited. I'm excited. And the theme this year, the global I am, it just fits right into the spiritual component that our viewers are going to see today and tomorrow. So I'm really excited, Max.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. So the global I am, one of the things that has always been kept from us is the idea of a place called home. In spite of the fact of our contribution to the building of America, there's always been a resistance to fully embracing not only our contribution, but our ownership of America. And, we as people of color have always grappled with that. That's has always sat in the background. My idea is, we can call America home. We certainly can. But more than that, when we look at the contribution of people of color around the world, of African rooted people around the world, we understand that we may live here, but who we are is global. Global, I am. I am global. You may be wherever you are from, but I am global.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. And so with that, viewers, we are excited that you are joining us today. Sit back. We have hours of entertainment, education, inspiration, and we just want you to enjoy the authors that we have ready to share their hearts and their testimonies with you. Until later on, see you later.
Hello, my name is Gail Moss, aka the Poetic Evangelist, and I am excited to be a part of the Harlem Book Fair 2021 with Christian Authors on Tour. My current book is entitled Women of Faith, Resilient Through Struggles, Triumphant Over Trials. It is a collaboration with 3 other poets and is a full-color book that features our special read by the author scan codes. When you scan the codes with your mobile, you will hear our voices reading our poetry to you. I personally started to write poetry as a child, but it wasn't until the passing of my mother that I started to pen poetry as a form of ministry. I was a teenager at the time, so to say that my world was turned upside down is a tremendous understatement. My mother, being a woman of faith, introduced me to the Bible as a child, and that is where I found comfort during my time of bereavement. As scripture began to minister to me, it became the foundation of my poetry. Today, I would like to share with you a poem from Women of Faith entitled, We Are Eve, E-V-E. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, is where we first hear mention of a certain tree that God instructed Adam he should never eat. But then Eve came on the scene. And her claim to fame came from her decision to partake of that particular tree. Henceforth, when we hear talk of Eve, we listen for the tale of the tree. The account tells of the beauty of that tree, how pleasant it was to look upon and desirable to eat. And of it Eve did eat, being beguiled by that old snake. For Eve was minding her own business when trouble came slithering in to bring about confusion. Thus Eve made a decision, like we all have done, to the best of her knowledge and comprehension. But Eve's act brought on a negative impact. Yet it was not her heart. That was not Eve's intention. As with Adam and Eve, men and women alike make mistakes in this life. The mistake may not even be any fault of their own, yet they find themselves in a plight. What do they do now amidst the hardship and strife? Well, if we shift our attention away from that old serpent and the conversation he had with Eve, we are still left in that beautiful garden surrounded by lovely trees. Trees are symbolic of many things. They represent beauty, strength, wisdom, even eternity. Did you know that God likens us to trees? Remember, it was He who fashioned us, made us essential to His plan. Christ came through a woman. God regards His daughters valuable, above material things. We're worth more than bling, more than rubies and pearls. Sisters, God empowered all His children to impact this world. Beauty, strength, wisdom, eternal beings. We are all of these, essential, valuable, empowered. Sisters, we are all Eve. I hope you enjoyed We Are Eve, E-V-E, essential, valuable, empowered. In women of faith, resilient through struggles, triumphant over trials. Next, I would like to share a video from my solo project entitled Air Royal, a Poetry Collection. Air Royal is a source of inspiration and encouragement for believers, as well as an invitation to those who have yet to believe. This piece is the very first poem in that collection, and it is entitled A Prince Like No Other.
A prince like no other. There is a prince that existed before our time began. Shh. Listen closely so that you truly understand that more than anything else in this world you'll ever need is to be in a relationship with Him. And once you've embraced His love, you'll freely give Him all the devotion and worship He's due. So come, my sisters, come, dear mothers, daughters, and girlfriends, and brothers too. Let me introduce His Majesty to you. The history book of our faith tells of His splendor, His everlasting love, His compassion and favor. Chivalry is not dead, and this is no fable. He desires you, and whatever you're in need of, He can supply. For truly, He is able.
Amen.
He has already sacrificed. He has already given the depth of His love for you. He has already proven He knew you before you knew you. Even while you were being conceived in your mother's womb. And He loves you. He loves you. He loves you. It doesn't matter your size, your situation or status. It doesn't matter your color, your career, or who your dad is. It doesn't matter your health, your debt or wealth, or previous bad relationships.
All right.
He loves you. He loves you.
Yes, yes.
So don't be concerned whether others think you're beautiful, popular, or great. This prince knows your worth. Come now, make haste. You don't have to be defeated by a world that's unkind. This prince brings victory and transformation of the mind.
Yes, it does.
Experience a love that is truly real. Give him your whole heart. For it, he can heal. He longs for you with outstretched arms. He seeks you now. Will you come? He is the bridegroom, and he wants to share his life with you. I beseech you, beloveds, please say, I do. Hear ye, hear ye. Receive the king's first and only begotten son. Eternal is his reign. Sovereign is his kingdom. And on his robe and on his thigh, it is written, King of kings, Lord of lords. He is a prince like no other. He is the true one. And we worship his majesty. God bless you.
Thank you for spending time with me today with Christian Authors on Tour at the 2021 Harlem Book Fair. My name is Gail Moss, aka the Poetic Evangelist.
Greetings, Harlem Book Fair. I am publisher and author Dwight Doremus, winner of 2019 Human Indies Book Award winner for the book Disappearing Dads. Special shout out to Max Rodriguez, the founder of QBR and the Harlem Book Fair, and to his staff. Also a special thanks to Lynn Pender, founder of Christian Authors on Tour, for this opportunity to give Christian authors a platform to express our love for God through writing. Hallmark Channel became part of the 24-hour cable station network in 2001. Year after year, this country's leading destination for quality family entertainment delivers romantic movies, primetime series, and other shows for us to binge on. The storyline of their romantic movies usually follow this familiar pattern. We have an overworked, hopeless romantic who's looking for love. This person bumps into someone who will be their rival or competitor. They hate each other from the start, then they share experiences together. After spending some time together, they have feelings for each other. At the last minute, an ex gets in the way of the new budding relationship until there's a breakup of the past relationship. Eventually, the new couple get back together, fall in love, seal the relationship with a kiss or a wedding. The entertainment industry gives us a flawed blueprint of how we should enter relationships that will lead to marriage. They embrace romantic experience of self-fulfillment. They navigate their experiences by using human reasoning with feelings instead of divine revelation with purpose. Let us see if these romantic ideas are familiar to us. They are meant for each other. Faith has brought them together. They followed their hearts. These familiar ideas are common in Hallmark romantic movies, but there is a key element missing. Where does God fit into these relationships? My third book, Wife, Life, and Legacy, is an inspirational book written as a guide to assist to prepare for the covenant of marriage that honors God. In the opening chapter, Epitome of Love, I outline real meaning of love. Genuine love is more than falling in love. When emotions and feelings drive the engine of a relationship, it will eventually crash. It requires so much more. We know love is the greatest virtue that binds everything together. Building Boaz is the next chapter A comparison of males and men is defined by God in this chapter. Males are hardwired to provide and protect. But do they know which master to answer? Do they have a mission with a vision? Be able to choose a wife carefully. It will be a lifetime of favor or a lifetime of failure. They must be farsighted to know in leaving a legacy that matters because eternity is already set in their hearts. Ruth Reddick's the following chapter. Every wife is a woman, but every woman is not a wife. A virtuous woman is worth more than rubies, and she places her value not in self, but in Christ. Beauty and favor are a bonus and not a primary reason to be chosen for marriage. The former fades and the latter is deceitful. Anyone can play along to go along until she gets what she wants after the wedding day. Character is the key, and she either builds her house or destroys it with her hands. Before I do is a chapter that examines the importance of weeding out the contenders from the pretenders of marriageable partners. What I call the 7 C's that are a must before anyone gets married are emphasized in this chapter. This includes any red flags or excess baggage from experiences of both parties. That patients have this perfect work to test out the potential spouse through the word of God from counsel of family members. Covenant versus contract chapter looks at how thriving functional marriages are still possible. I highlight comparison and contrast between these two topics in this chapter. Singleness is also mentioned, and it is not a death sentence. Marriage or choosing not to marry is one of the most important decisions in our lives and should never be made alone. Whichever way we do, we should do it for the glory of God. Slipping into darkness is a chapter that addresses where the difference is if we choose to stay within God's boundaries of relationships leading to marriage. Divorce and cohabitation are the key topics in this chapter. Why should we eat the bread of wickedness and the wine of violence to compromise our moral values just to satisfy our appetites? We would rather be physical than official. Final thoughts is the last chapter. Summarize each of the previous chapters in the book with detailed synopsis. In most cases, those who are planning for marriage did not grow up with fathers in the same household. He may have been absent, passed away, emotionally unavailable, or even abusive. This does not mean that these potential marriages will end in divorce. It is important for all of us to forget what happened in the past and not to dwell on the events from long ago. We cannot go back and change the beginning, but we can start where we are and change the ending. My father passed away when I was 6 years old. My wife's father abandoned her when she was 7. We have been married for over 25 years. It was God's grace and mercy that held us together. We are imperfect people, forgiving each other every day and choosing to love each other. If you want to purchase the book, Wife, Life, and Legacy, you can email me with your mailing information at treynickerpublishing@gmail.com for the pre-order price of $10. You can cash app me at $Dwight Duramus. I am also a publisher. If you want Trey Nicker Publishing to help you write your legacy, contact me with your mailing information at treynickerpublishing@gmail.com. Let us come together, write the vision down, and make it plain. Remember, a story never written is a story never told. If you're also interested in disappearing dads, you can check out my website at treynickerpub.com. That's treynickerpub.com. And also, be on the lookout for my upcoming podcast, Legacy to Eternity. Again, my upcoming podcast is called Legacy to Eternity. I want to thank you, Harlem Book Fair. Thank you, Christian Authors on Tour. And thank you, readers. God bless.
I am so excited. My name is Lynn Pender. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer for Christian Authors on Tour. This panel discussion is called Writing as a Tool for Christian Ministry. As Christian authors, we have a call on our lives to write for more than entertainment. The real-life testimonies, nonfiction, and the creative stories, parables, fiction we share in our books help introduce readers to biblical principles that help them lead Christ's full lives.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tracy Lydia Garner. I've written 14 books. I write romantic and Christian suspense novels, and also what's called wholesome and clean Christian fiction. Writing has been just a wonderful labor of love. My stories tackle issues around adoption and also foster care and children that have been in the foster care system and how they have overcome obstacles and learn to triumph and find love in the process, because that's always fun too. I always give my characters a lot of adversity, and writing just has been a wonderful thing that I have embraced and learned, and really saved me from a time of depression in my early school years. I just have always used writing as a tool to communicate and to show how I feel, but it's also been a way for me to elevate my platform as a champion and an advocate for people with disabilities, as I also have a type of disability and use a wheelchair to get around, and I have mobility issues. So writing allowed people to see me and see what I have to offer without always judging me first by seeing the mechanical or the support and the equipment that I used. And it's always leveled the playing field in my life by using that first and getting invited places, and people would be like, oh, she's in a wheelchair. And I'd be like, yes, I'm still present and I'm still here. And so I just thank God for that opportunity. And really the mission and the idea behind it is so much bigger than just the writing. It's about the contributions that people with disabilities can make to society and to the world when they have the right supports in their lives and the right people.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pastor Kevin Wayne Johnson, and so glad to be with you. I have been on this writing journey now for 19 years. I have contributed to 17 books, either as a principal author or a contributing author. The initial book series that I penned in my earlier years is Give God the Glory, a series of 8 nonfiction books, and we actually earned 19 literary awards over those years. And fast forward now, I'm writing on the topic of leadership. That's really the tool that I use because that's the core of who Kevin Johnson is.
My name is Sandra Thompson Williams, and I'm excited to discuss my books. I've been writing most of my life. I have published 6 books, and those books, the genre actually goes from biography to fiction and also nonfiction. And I love being able to take current events and to somehow get a discussion going where people can actually see Jesus in their everyday life. And so my latest books have really talked about people who need to be witnessed to, people who are not always part of the church that we see, but these are people who God loves just as much as anyone, and we have to find a way to engage them. And listening to the voice of the Lord, He has had me to put these ordinary people into everyday stories, but it also gives the church an opportunity to see things that they can do and say to engage people who ordinarily would not walk through a church door.
And it's been such an honor over the years to have the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. I want you to talk a little bit about your favorite book and tell us a little bit why that you have selected this particular book as your favorite.
Well, I'll tell you, it is so hard, Lynn, to pick a favorite child. How do you do that? They're all wonderful. It is all pleasing in His sight. How can I possibly do that? But I am from the Dulles, Virginia area, just outside of Washington, D.C., where I currently live, and I'm a Virginia native. One of my favorite books is probably my first full-length novel book. That story, Whatever May Come, is taken from the headlines. I love stories that come ripped kind of from the news and what's going on in the news. And at that time, a school teacher was trying to adopt a little girl who had become a product of the foster care system. And there were some tragic things that happened in her situation to try to adopt her, but she kept fighting. The reason why that story is so wonderful, because it was my first attempt, 14 books ago, at a full-length novel, and I just wasn't sure. I had written a novella, and I had won a contest with the novella, but that was a very short story, way shorter than what I would actually write. 40,000 words compared to Whatever May Come is now 107,000 words. And just so the sheer volume of that, God would give me so many words to write. And people would be like, well, how'd you do that? Did your brain explode? I'd be like, no, it is divine intervention. And so I'll always remember it because it was such a wonderful experience and a wonderful opportunity, and that I could do it and that I was able to do it and have since kept doing it.
And I'm also on the East Coast. I am in Clarksville, Maryland, so I am halfway between our nation's capital and Baltimore. And like Tracy, I'm in love with all of the books that I'm involved with, but let me share with you what got Kevin Johnson started in writing. The late, great Dr. Miles Monroe, a prominent pastor and a prominent business leader whose home base was in the Bahamas, wrote a book in 1993 titled Understanding Your Potential.
Yeah.
It was a relatively short paperback. I mean, probably no more than about maybe 115 pages, maybe. And I read that book and I was like, wow, understanding your potential. That was really the spark that lit the fire in this author to have me to go forward and write the books, all based upon giving God glory, because we have to put him first and foremost in our lives.
Wonderful. Well, I also agree that it's difficult to select one book as your favorite, but when it comes to the books that I have written, there was always a different season involved. And whatever season you're in, that's when you really need the book that God has you writing. And the message in the book has a lot to do with prayer, deception, demonic activity, what we cannot see. And from that very first book, and it's called Eating the Fruit of Lies. And that is a quotation out of the book of Hosea, the minor prophet.
What lessons you think readers can get from your books that they can apply to their everyday lives, to situations that's going on around them in their world, in our world?
Well, some of the lessons that I feel people can get from reading the books that I write, even though they are fiction, a lot of the issues that people are experiencing are what is going on in the world. There's a lot of adversity that I give my characters. There's always single women as my heroine, who also is looking for love. That's not her sole focus, but love comes along the way eventually, and she may have given up, she may have moved on. And I think that is a lesson and a thought that resonates with lots of single people. I myself am still a single woman, and so writing is also part mental health and partly a way to deal with some of the challenges that you see in society, and also just process. I used to be obsessed, and I probably still am, with missing persons. And when I was a teenager, Natalie Holloway was missing. She went on a trip to Aruba. that is another type of story that I've taken, from the headlines, a very tragic story that still hasn't ever been solved. Mm-hmm. But when I write a story and I'm able to put my own ending on it, it's almost like I've written something that will satisfy myself and my own quest to know what in the world happened. Why is this person missing? And just think about, not get bogged down in the heartache and the things that people experience, but also to write your way out of that. So the very act of writing is mental health, but then what the characters go through is also a way for people to see themselves in the character and process the affronts and the things that assault them on a daily basis. And so that's what I think about. But then I'm helping other people see themselves in the story. And also one of the big issues, working with their faith, whether they doubt, whether they haven't been to church. My characters go to church. Some haven't been in a while. Some may be estranged. And so just really digging deeper and really all my stories, all my characters are humans, but it's just that, even though these things are superimposed, they are still real and tangible people that I hope people see in themselves.
In the initial series of books that I authored, I'm all about raising the level of awareness and also educating all of our readers, men, women, boys, and girls, about why it's important to put God first and foremost in their lives. And so with each title, there's a separate subtitle. Today, Giving God the Glory has everything to do with making sure that we put him first and foremost in our relationships. So during this pandemic, it's all about strengthening our relationships. Also in the workplace, because we've made a shift. We're not actually going to a building, but we're working from home. Number 3 is being the light that God has created us to be. So we're in the midst of a lot of darkness right now, but because we are the children of the Most High God, we are light. So everywhere we go, we dispel darkness. Also, as it relates to the family, giving God the glory and putting him first and foremost in our family. This is a great time to strengthen those family ties, reaching out by phone, having Zoom meetings, just kind of getting together and having a conversation and making sure we're all doing well. And then last but not least, during times of rest and relaxation. So even when we're at home, just relaxing on the sofa with our blanket pulled over us and the recliner going back, we can still give them some glories. If we deposit what we know into the lives of the current and next generation of leaders. We need more leaders. How do we lead through everything that's been going on in this new decade and this new year? It's been a rather traumatic and interesting start for a new decade and for a new year. And so it's kind of interesting that God would have me writing on that particular topic at this particular time, because we do need good leadership to move forward.
I like to consider myself the faith and fiction writer, and the message that I'm always hopeful that people will get when they read the books, I want them to see themselves in the characters. Many times we feel led to witness to people and we don't know what to say, how they will receive the message. Many times they will receive it when they see it in a different character, instead of someone coming to them saying, this is you, this is you. Let them find themselves in the book. Their faith can be increased, but also their walk with Christ can also be improved. And if they don't know Christ, when they're looking and reading the books, I find that they'll want to get to know Christ, because somehow the love of God is going to just be throughout the pages of the book. And they'll see a side of God they have never seen. Perhaps they did not understand when reading the Word of God. And many people will not read the Bible. I like to write, and I'm always hopeful that non-Christians will read it and get to understand that God loves them in spite of, regardless of who they are, what they've done. They can do nothing that's so bad that he cannot redeem them. And so many of the characters that I write about or characters that need to be redeemed. But instead of me pointing my finger in somebody's face, they can find themselves in I would say, a more gentle way by reading a story that they think is about someone else, but because it's still the word of God infused throughout those pages, it's going to haunt them. It's going to stay with them because the message of the gospel gets through when you write something that's for the glory of God.
But I want each of you to leave some words of wisdom to someone who's watching.
Always be assessing the situation, their personal and their professional life. I think even if they are having a wonderful time, there may be a spot or an area where they could do even better. They could reach back and help someone else. They could pour into someone, especially for my single people. There's always someone else that needs assistance, and you are single. There's somebody's child that needs a little more time and attention that their mother and father doesn't have to give them, or if they're in a single parent home, just that extra attention and information and whatever you can impart to them will be welcome. And the other thing is just don't ever give up. Let people put limitations on you, and don't let those infiltrate your mind. It's one thing when they put them on you and you shake them off. It's another thing when they put them on you and they slowly start to nick at you and peck at your heels and start to bother you. That means they're slowly getting into your system, and you may be slowly starting to believe or operate your life and your aspirations from a sense of fear, and also a sense that God can't do it or can't fix it. And it's just little steps. I've been in my career a really long time and always feeling like, golly, you have 14 books, like why, what's happening? Striving to get out of mid-range in the middle of the list. And you don't know why or what is on the other side. Everybody thinks someone is a one-hit wonder or that they've been very successful for such a long time, and they tell you, no, not quite. So you just have to stick to it, but also just keep believing that you can be successful and that you can reach the goals that you've set out for yourself if they are in God's will. And that's the most important thing.
I really like Tracy's response because she's spot on. My response, just in terms of echoing some of that, is to dream big and follow your dreams. And in doing so, you'll have to learn, you'll have to grow, and then you will prosper. But it all starts with our individual dreams, aspirations, and goals. And in order to get to the finish line, you do have to start. So don't hesitate to start. So, we are Christian communicators. This is one of many ways that we communicate through ministry, and God gives you an audience, and our job is to, again, grow, learn, and then prosper.
I love what you just said about the assignment, Pastor Kevin. I believe that every individual is uniquely made and has a unique call upon their lives. Not that other people don't share some of the things that you do, but God specifically called you from your mother's womb to do something that other people cannot do. And when you find that purpose in God, then the praise of your life really goes up before God, because yes, you have found it. So when God gives us an assignment, and make no mistake about it, whoever you are, you have one. But saying yes to God, Pastor was saying, just start from somewhere. Once you say yes to God, He'll open up doors, He'll make the way. There are people who are waiting to help you to start off on this journey, whether you're a writer or whether you're something else. But whatever you do, give God praise.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
I'm Pastor Nathaniel Anthony. pastor of the Sunset Christian Fellowship Church, located at 2140 Harford Road in Baltimore, Maryland, and the author of the book, Being Human. I would like to share a few things with you about my book. The book consists of biblical narratives and teachings from the Bible to show that the trials and relationship dynamics that the biblical figures face are the same challenges that we face emotionally and relationally today as Christians and humans. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, as did the biblical figures, because we are all human. But the narratives end with lessons to be learned on how to be all that God has called us to be. These are stories from the Bible that I'm sure we've all read and we're all familiar with. I would like to share excerpts from one or two of them, if I may. This one is coming from the story of Ruth. I have devoted 4 chapters to her story in this book, but I want to read chapter 16. And I titled this chapter, The Benefit of Not Turning Back. And here's how it goes. It's coming from Ruth chapter 1, verse 18, and says, when she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, she left speaking to her. And this is what I wrote. When our mind is made up to do something in life, we set the wheels of success in motion. God honors faithfulness. Ruth wasn't any different than Orpah in the eyes of the Almighty God. She was probably no better looking, no more faithful to her husband, no more of a Moabite, and no more of a daughter-in-law at the time of her marriage than her sister-in-law was. So what made Ruth steadfast in staying with her mother-in-law? She made a decision that she was going to be someone different than who she had been. The fact that she decided to identify with Naomi, her God and her people, speaks volume to that. There was something about Naomi and the God she served that made Ruth decide that she was going to leave her old life and stop worshiping pagan gods. She wanted a different, better life. She had to have thought about it, what it would mean to leave Moab and all her family and to go where no one knew her except her mother-in-law. This took great courage, faith, consideration, and heart. How many of us would have done the same thing? I wonder. There will be times when we are going to have to make decisions that will require us to come out of our comfort zone and take a leap of faith. You see, humans avoid being uncomfortable, even when it's for our own good. We want things to be spelled out to us and put up in neon lights that say, this is going to be good for you. And there is no risk in you doing this. Just go for it. However, that is not faith. That is walking by sight. Somehow, Ruth had what it took to make that decision and stay the course. However, I do not hold anything against her sister-in-law for turning back. People will do as much as they can. We are different individuals with different levels of tolerance, different temperaments, which is an important factor in explaining the things we do and the way we act. Even though Orpah and Ruth were Moabite women, they obviously came from different families and had different backgrounds and different upbringings. They did not have the same outlook on things. Ruth would go on to be of great value in the lineage of Jesus Christ. I just wanted to read a short excerpt from that. I would like to take a time to read a little bit about a testimony that someone sent me about the book. This is what she wrote. Her name is Veronica. She says, "Your book was a gift from my mother. Normally, I read books and put them to the side. I do not forget them, but excerpts from each book always come back to me during the years. Well, this time when she gave me your book, Being Human, it struck such a deep chord with me that I have read it 3 times and am now sharing it with my grown children in their late 30s on how to second chance their lives, rearing their own children, and assist others in how they perceive the world as they know it. After the 3rd read of this book, I found this information important to share with my children. Now, I never read the author, the dedication page, nor the contents of a book. I assure you this is a book I read cover to cover and carried it everywhere I went, even to church, sitting with my husband and watching a movie or something. I found myself reverting back to this book. I have been reading it over and over ever since I got it. So this is just a few things that I believe will resonate with whoever reads this book. I really believe it's going to bless you. I believe in it. This is my first book. And I think that whatever story that you read in the book, it will have some relevance to you. I think there's some things in it that we can all identify with. And I hope you go out and get it. I believe there is something that we all can relate to. It has 156 pages, not a very long book. It's 32 narratives, and I guarantee you each and every one of them are packed with a lot of power. And I have some information at the end of each story that will enable you to look at our lives, look at your situation, and realize that you too can make it. No matter how tough it gets. The going get tough and the tough get going. But we can work it out. God is able, He's strong, and He's faithful. And if we're faithful, there's nothing too hard for God. The Apostle Paul said, well, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. God bless you. I thank you, and I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.
Letters from the Heart is a daring and bold account of the relationship challenges between a father and daughter. Join Dexter and Delisha Easley as they navigate through hurt, estrangement, stigmas of the African American community, and forgiveness. This raw, real, relevant book proves that although reconciliation is often difficult, it is always possible. Letters from the Heart, a guide map to a better, more wholesome, and emotionally fulfilled life.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm Pastor Dexter Easley. I'm here with my daughter, Delisha Easley. We're excited about today. We're going to talk a little bit about letters from the heart, and we're just going to have a conversation. And hopefully this conversation will help you grow in men relationships with your spouse, with your family, with your siblings, because it's all talking about forgiveness. I'm here with Delisha, and I'm excited about it. Delisha, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Daddy.
Good to have you with us.
Yay.
Amen. I'm excited.
I'm excited that we are in Harlem with the Christian Authors Book Tour.
Yes, isn't that awesome?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
And I got an opportunity to meet some folks from the Lynn, Lynn, and also too Leroy as well. And just great to be here. Just great to be able to talk about our book and the heart of it. So give us an idea of why did we write this book?
Yes. So as my dad said, I'm Delisha Easley. I'm his daughter.
Yes.
I'm not his twin.
No.
But we are known to be twins. We wrote this book basically out of our own relationship. going from unforgiveness to forgiving each other and being healed. And it was a process, and then we went through therapy. And after that, we kind of, a part of the therapy was writing letters to each other, to understand each other, to read and get feedback. And then we went on to, I felt like God gave me this idea to put it in a book. And my dad was very encouraging.
No, I wasn't. There you go.
He was kind of hesitant, but I knew that the reason we were writing it was for a bigger message, and it was for not just us, but so many other people's lives can literally be changed. And that's what we've been hearing so far.
Amen, amen. And it's amazing because how we started on this road, especially through counseling and allowing God to really deal with our hearts as well, and allowing the Holy Spirit to kind of, and then where I was, kind of being a pastor, being a leader, in the community and speaking on different platforms, and still had this relationship that I needed to get right with my daughter.
Right.
And I felt that God was really turning our hearts. But I didn't really want to write the book. I mean, you the one really encouraged that. And I thank you for that, because it helped me through that process, helped me deal with some issues, write it on paper, and then see it. So those letters I was writing you was from my heart, and you were responding from your heart. So I just thank God for that as well. So I believe He's going to bless people. I believe He's going to bless the nation. I believe He's going to bless families to understand it's okay to talk about some of these things and allow the Holy Spirit to deal with them as well.
Right. Right, exactly. So what else do you have to say in regards to fathers who purchased the book and maybe haven't reached out to their children yet?
When I was driving into the studio today, I was thinking about this. I said, not just fathers, because it is great for fathers, but I think it'd be great for a wife or or someone to read, just to hear the story and then allow them to be healed by that. What I've been hearing from men is we gave it to one of the guys that were actually doing a interview.
Okay.
And we gave it to him, and his name is Pastor Wright, and he read it. He said he couldn't get through the first part of the introduction until he started crying, because he saw himself in that. And those have been the actions of men that get the book, is understanding that there is a man that went through some things, that is writing this out on paper, saying, you can reconcile with your daughter and your family. And it doesn't have to just be a daughter relationship. Like I said before, it can be a father and a son. It can be a husband and a wife. It can, because it works on all those areas. Tell us a little bit about just a little bit about that intro part when you start really dealing with fear and forgiveness.
In the foreword of the book, which I end up writing, I wanted to make sure that this was addressing the type of women that are in my tribe, that support me continuously, who may not have a relationship with their father at all, who haven't heard from their father. And through my studies and research, there were three main things that women specifically were faced with, and that's resentment, anger, and fear. And overcoming that, and it's all a process. And I think the amazing part is that we give practical steps in the book on how to address and overcome those issues. And so for me personally, fear was mine. And like I said before, perfect love casts out all fear. And that's what caused me to embrace my dad for where he was and who he was, and because I loved him. And then that fear of, will he receive what I have to say? Will he, how would he react, was gone, because I, had overcome that fear. It's all a process, and don't rush yourself, and just
that's good.
Don't rush yourself, and just for us, I just trust God that He would mend it, and how that will look. We are living it now, to be found out,
Exactly. So I think that's the part about the book as well. When you talked about that, it's some basic things that we're sharing, but it's also too, I like it because it is a small book. It's not really that means about 100 pages or so, but it is able to sit down and actually read it, and just take your time. Boom. I had one person tell me that they said when they got the book, they opened it up, started reading, couldn't stop it. In less than an hour, they was already through the book again, and then they were already ready to go back through it again. So it is a powerful book.
Right.
I think that that's the reason why we did what we did, is it came together. And I truly believe that God's going to shine and move on this, because it's going to bless people's relationships as well. So now, how are we going to get people to get the book? I mean, how are we going to do that?
So right now it is live. If it's not already a bestseller, we're on our way to that on Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com. It is Letters from the Heart, Dexter and Delisha Easley. You can type that in, it'll come on. Or you can go to our websites, DelishaEasley.com, newlifegcsc.org. And when you turn on the websites, it's right there in a banner, Letters from the Heart. This beautiful photo of ourselves. We want to thank everyone for their support. And before we go, I just received a DM message from one of my friends who I went to college with, and she hadn't spoken to her father, and they had no relationship. And she just went out and said, I'm going to go and get therapy and take that first step. And she did. And she messaged me today. She did it when our first interview from Facebook.
Got it.
And then she messaged me today and said she spoke to her dad and she hasn't heard from him in like years. Like they never had any relationship.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Wow, praise God.
That's just now getting the book. She was just amazed that we're praying, because everyone that is purchasing the books and the names that we get is not a list, but we are actually praying over your lives, and we're praying that those relationships that are broken will be healed from just this one tool that God is using.
Exactly. And we want you to go ahead and do that. Of course, once again, we're on Amazon. We desire to be a bestseller on Amazon. You can help us by doing that, by going to Amazon and purchasing the book. But not only purchasing the book, we need you to put a good review on it as well. Tell them how you enjoyed it, things of that nature. Somebody said, well, why would you want to do this? This is the reason why. It's because as we support one another and lift each other up, it can make a greater impact. Now, of course, Delisha and I can do great things, and we travel all around the world, and yet we together can do better to be able to touch families, heal them, and cause the power of God to flow in their life. We are just the catalyst that God is using with the book, but truly it is the Holy Spirit, it is the love of God, it's Jesus Christ being able to be shared abroad by the Holy Spirit. So we thank God for that. And Delisha, I'm so proud to be your father. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your father. And I know that you are excited about being my daughter.
Yes, it's an honor.
I can tell the excitement is overwhelming. Well, once again, we want to thank you for allowing us to come to you at the Harlem's book tour. We're glad to be here. Hug somebody today. Let them know that Jesus Christ is Lord. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And this is such an awesome privilege to be a part of this Harlem Book Fair of 2021. I had the opportunity to participate last year, my first time ever, and it was such a blessing. And so it's an honor to be invited back to be part of this. And also, just part of magnificent, amazing other authors who, through their books, through their stories, are also sharing a ministry that we believe is going to bless you. And so through my book that God gave me to write, unbeknownst to me, it started in 2017 of May. And the Lord woke me up early in the morning, and I just started putting pen to paper and typing, and wrote Living with the Sea and Behind the Scene, most of it at that time. And the book is it's a ministry actually, but it's about an assignment that God gave me that I did not expect to have. And we know how things happen in our lives that are unexpected, and some things that we would not welcome or choose for ourselves. But I'm grateful that God trusted me with this assignment, Living with the Sea, which is breast cancer. And so through this book, and basically the preference for the book for the scripture is Romans 8:28, one of my favorite scriptures, which says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and are the called according to his purpose. So though many things happen in our lives that we don't want to happen, that are difficult to go through, we know that it is working together for our good to make us better Christians, better witnesses of God. And so that's what living with the C is. It has my journey going through breast cancer and just how the Lord had helped me through. Doesn't mean it was going to be easy. There's some difficult times in there. There's, stuff that's going to make you laugh and shake your head and just know that, and kind of scare you. There may be through me to bless you and to inspire you that no matter what we face in life, He is able to see you through. And so the chapters in the book actually are titled after healing, because I am healed by His stripes. And I'm healed through the processes that He allowed me to go through this cancer journey. So though it was not an easy journey, though there may be times that you might want to get up and, give up, ask questions, God, why? Know that there is a greater purpose for your assignment. And so through this book, it just gives you a glimpse of what you may experience if you're dealing with breast cancer or any devastating life circumstances. It not only talks about cancer, but just different things that the evil one will put in your life as well, and that God can see us through it and get us through it. So it's a book about faith. Prayerfully, it will instill faith in you to increase your faith. If you feel like giving up, I encourage you not to. And I believe this book will help you and help facilitate you not giving up. The word of God is throughout the book that you can stand on, and I would encourage to repeat it. Again, there are humorous things in the book. One of the other premises of this book is that when I was waiting for my results for breast cancer and not knowing what was going to happen and really just being wondering what was going to be the outcome, the Lord had given me the scripture in Psalms 117:18. But basically, He told me that I was not going to die, but live and declare His works. So living with the C is that opportunity to declare His works, that He is good, even in the midst of the tears, the pain, whatever you may experience, He's still good, and it's going to work out for your good. So living with the C, I encourage you to make it a part of your library that you can go back to it. I've had a minister tell me she used part of it in her preaching assignment. I've had people, kind of provide feedback, which lets me know that this is a book that God created through me because people are being blessed through it. If you want to secure your copy, you can reach me at 443-579-5206. I have a website, but my website really doesn't talk about the book so much as it is made up of inspirational or motivational type sayings, experiences that just, again, will encourage you to go on. But if you would like to check out the website, it's https://drgardner.com. That's DEER Gardner, GARDNER.com. And it's titled Behind the Scene. You can also reach me through email at drgardner0@gmail.com. So again, I just bless you. And one of the things, there's suspense through it out, even though I told you I had breast cancer, but there's some, suspense there that it just doesn't come out. Yes, you have cancer. So one of the things, and I'll just read a little portion. During my MRI, I had to lie face down on my stomach on a table with my breasts freely dangling in circular cups called coils. The procedure was painless, but the injection of the contrast was nerve-wracking due to my fear of needles. After the procedure was over, the waiting game was on. I believed I was handling the unknown rather well, But I also found myself sometimes wondering what was going to be the outcome. Would I live or would I die? And I'm sure that many can relate to the experiences that you may go through and just wondering what is the outcome going to be. But I encourage you to stand on the word of God, because during my waiting, he gave me the scripture that I was not going to die and live and declare his works. And that was actually back in 2011. And this was the fruit of that message in declaring his word coming out in 2018. So you just never know, what God does, how he, gives you the assignment early, don't even know that it's going to happen, and woo, it's birthed. So I bless God and I thank God for you tuning in. I really pray that this can be a blessing to anyone going through any kind of cancer. And again, any kind of life circumstances. It talks about a defeated attitude, having victory over these things, a defeated attitude, low self-esteem, near fatal car accident, the illnesses, divorce, anything can be your seed. It doesn't have to be cancer, but know that through it all, and trusting in God and trusting him doesn't mean we won't waver. We won't be thinking like, oh, the doom and gloom, but I'm going to encourage you not to go there, not to stay there, because we do serve a God who hears and answers prayer. Again, there's so much scripture, throughout. You will get the opportunity to laugh at some crazy things that I thought or did. At least it made me laugh, and I think it'll make you laugh too. So as always, I just encourage you to, read and trust God through whatever you're going through. This book was meant to really inspire faith, to give you hope if you're feeling hopeless, to encourage you not to give up. I'm a witness, a living witness, a breathing, a talking witness that he is good. And knowing that, no, not everyone lives through this experience, but even there's victory in that, because if you leave this side, your assignment's finished and you can be with our eternal Father and you're saved. So I just bless you. I thank you for listening. And I pray that again, you will get your copy. You won't be disappointed you won't be, because this is a God thing. Thank you.
Turner from Stephen Turner Ministries, and if you like that, that's an original composition. It's called Elohim. Listen, you can give us a call at 1-410-302-2737. That's 1-410-302-2737, or go to our website at www.stephenturnerministries.com. Yeah. Hi, I'm Pastor Steve, Music Man Turner, and I'm a proud member of the Christian Authors on Tour, and I'm grateful to be here at the Harlem Book Fair, and I'm grateful for them allowing me to be here. And so I want to talk about the book that I am actually author of. It's called The Other Pulpit, Life Lessons of a Leader, and it actually chronicles the true story of history here in Baltimore, Black history, I want to say that. And so in 1946, young pastor Bishop Winfield Amos Showell of the First Apostolic Faith Institutional Church wanted to do something to promote God in the community and in the city, and he was led to do something radical. And that was to go to the studios of WANN Annapolis, in segregated Annapolis, to actually start a radio ministry, something unheard of. And he wanted to have a combination for a 1-2 punch. He wanted a choir that would sing before him before he began to preach. And so what he did was he went to my aunt and asked her if she could actually help, because helping was a part of the ministry of our family, the Turner family. That's how the church got started, with Bishop Turpin going to my great aunt, asking to use, and she volunteered her living room to get the church started. And so when they came to my grandmother and asked her would my mother be able to help, she said she volunteered her. Yes, she can. And that's not what she wanted to do, because she had other plans to work with the caravans, which had tried to recruit her. She could sing, good God Almighty. And so at age 15, she went and got her family, made up of singers, and formed the radio chorus. And they sang for 46 years, traveling across the USA, traveling as far and going and even singing at Carnegie Hall. And so it's very important. I began to be on the choir and sang for 14 years. And I began to play for the choir for the last 7 years. That's really what this book is about, talking about our battles when she's trying to make a leader, battles when she's trying to make a pastor, our battles when she's trying to put wisdom into me and trying to get me to do and conform. I didn't want to do it. And so we go through the history of the book. She met Martin Luther King, as we talk about that, the 1968 riots. I remember those. And so these are historical things that have happened and occurred. We'll get into some of our lessons. There are 11 lessons that you can use for business, personal, commercial, private, church. Doesn't matter. It'll help you. Life lessons. And so this book is about 46 pages of pure power. And sure you can handle it. And so my point is that in lesson number 9 is called the Strap Sermon. Oh, it sounds just like it means strap sermon. That means I was doing something I had no business doing, and Mama had to correct me. And she did it it sounded like she was a preacher. I didn't know she went to seminary, because I've never seen anything like that. But that's how it sounded to me as she was developing my rear guard, as they say. And so lesson number 10 actually talks about the benefits of being in church, and the benefits of following what God is saying to do. And so I just had to do and learn these lessons, learn to be persistently humble, which is lesson number 3, where that just because you have a title, just because you have some gifts, doesn't mean that you have arrived. And it just means that you should be humble. Because when I was learning classical music, someone took the sheet of music away from me and I couldn't play a thing. So I had to learn that I wasn't all that. And so God has to learn and help you to keep you humble, and that's important to do. So the book is historic. It's of great value, and it's something that just will give you lots of laughter, lots of humor, unexpected humor. So I would advise you to read it at work. It might get you in trouble. You need to read this book at the fireplace, read it at a campsite, read it at a convocation, read it in a hotel room. Just enjoy it and share it with some other folks, because it's a book that's very relevant. It's got a lot of history in it, and it may surprise you of all the joy and the life and legacy of leadership. I never knew that my mother was so iconic until later in life, and so I'm the product of her investment. And as you can see, and as you'll read, in the end, God won out, and she also won out, because she gave me back to God. And that's what this book is really all about. And so it also talks about, which is the main impetus, about the other pulpit of wherever you are. That is where God is using you. That is your pulpit. And so, and I guess the other underlying question, backdrop, is the lessons of and the life of looking at my father from a distance, not being able to embrace him openly because he belonged to someone else. And so this question is asked, does God use spiritual biohazard waste where folks think that because you are illegitimate from another relationship and not from the first family, that you have no purpose? I'm here to tell you that you have purpose, you have goals. God will still use you, and He will manufacture some greatness in you. And that's what this book is all about. And you can't put it down once you pick it up, because it has a lot of nuggets in it for wisdom, and that's important. Lots of historical value. And this is a book that should actually be on your shelf, should be in your collection item, should be in your library. And I encourage you to get it today. And so when we think of Black history and Black culture and Black literature, we want to also think of the other pulpit, Life Lessons of a Leader. We want to think about that and give that some great credence and preference today. And I really appreciate this opportunity to be here. And I've been playing music for about 53 years. And I started at age 4, and I started classical music. And so now I'm in gospel, and that's where I aim to stay. And so I want to encourage you to get this book. Go to www.stephenturnerministries.com, www.stephenturnerministries.com, or www.jnfenterprises.com. If you can't wait, call me at 1-410-302-2737. And that's important. Looking forward to that call. Looking forward to talking to you.
Welcome. You are tuned into the 2020 Harlem Book Fair. This is Lynn Pinder with Christian Authors on Tour, and I am so excited to be able to introduce you to another panel of Christian authors. Today's panel is Writing as a Tool for Christian Ministry, Part 2. You get an opportunity to hear from these authors, and I want to give you a little background. As Christian authors, we have a call on our lives to write for more than entertainment. The real-life testimonies, nonfiction, and the creative stories, parables, fiction we share in our books help introduce readers to biblical principles that help them lead Christ's full lives. And today is such an honor to be able to have the opportunity to interview for your pleasure 3 authors. We have Apostle Frank A. Willett, we have Veronica E. Berry, and we also have Megan Carner. And just want to give you the opportunity to hear more about these 3 dynamic authors.
My name is Apostle Frank A. Willett. I live in Baltimore County, Maryland. The name of my book is The Hourglass. Is This the Last Hour? It's an end-time ministry book that's written in 2 volumes, one for the student and one for the instructor. It took me a year to write this book. This is my 2nd and 3rd book. I was inspired by one of my students who gave me a prophetic word that I should videotape these, and I prayed and came up with writing the books, putting these lessons in print. I type all of my lessons and teach them and send them out via email. I've got over 300 lessons, and I was able to compile them and put them together in book form.
My name is Veronica Berry. I'm from Sanford, Florida, and the title of my book is Malaya, Job's Wife. It is inspirational fiction. It is based on the life of Job and a special emphasis on his wife, Malaya. I was inspired to write the book while I was studying the book of Job, and a question entered my mind that I just could not get rid of, and that was, what about Job's wife? And I answered my own question immediately, and I said, who cares? But the question would not leave me, because yes, she said, curse God and die, but why did she say that? So I started thinking about this woman. She had a God-fearing husband. They were very, very rich. They had a great life. They had servants and friends and family, and they had 10 children. I know she was a proud mother. But something happened. Tragedy came, and all of it was taken away. The physical part, the houses, the land, they could get more of. But you can't bring back 10 children. And I thought about a friend of mine who lost one. She was feeling very devastated. It's just tragic. But this woman lost 10. So she had 10 devastations at one time. The motherly part of me, the motherly compassion kicked in. And I said, I want to investigate. I want to research. I want to find out why she said what she said. And it was worth my time.
My name is Megan Carner. I am here in Northern Virginia. And I am the creator behind CRAM Christian Resources, as well as the author of the Christian Resource and Academic Manual. The Christian Resource and Academic Manual is a Christian children's educational workbook series. And at CRAM, what we do is basically we exist to help children reach their highest God-given potential. And we do this through unique educational materials. So what we do is we take the academic piece that kids are already learning at their age group, and then we seamlessly integrate biblical principles and Christian values in order to sort of create a holistic educational experience. The Christian Resource and Academic Manual, while it is structured as a workbook series, there's 4 parts to it: math, life science, social science, and language arts. It also functions as a resource tool and a study guide. So it's very helpful for parents, homeschool parents, religious schools, and things like that.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you hope readers will gain by reading your book?
I hope readers will gain a deeper insight into the scriptures. The scriptures are very, very descriptive, but you will have to study to show yourself approved. I'm always trying to share a nugget that you don't know, that something, give you something that you've never seen before, or to get you to look at it from a different view. Therefore, I had this book written with 2 different Bibles in mind, the King James Version and the New Living Translation. These versions are very, very descriptive. They are very, very informative. And they give the reader a vast amount of information.
I really want readers to gain from my book that God loves everyone, and that he reigns on the just and he reigns on the unjust. And that's the reason why he said in John 3:16, for God so loved the world. Those people who we think are good and those people who we think are bad. Sometimes words come out of our mouths that do not truly reflect what comes out of our heart because of the devastation, because of heartache and pain. And for example, Malaya in my story, that is exactly what she went through. And as she was going through a shattered heart and in such pain, she said things she should not have said. And yet I know that God looks beyond our words many times and he sees our heart. And I want people to know that he is a forgiving God. And just like he's a forgiving God, we should be forgiving people. And he will show us how to deal with people who have done us wrong. And he will show us how to forgive in the right way. And that, yes, they will have to have consequences for what they've said or done. And yet he still loves them.
What I hope readers will gain from CRAM is that when you look at traditional academic environments, they tend to focus on a child's reaction to their environment, which is to say, well, they tend to focus on their behavior, which is just another way of saying their reaction. And in my opinion, I think that structure, it limits the potential of what the child can become, because what it does is it expands, their possibilities expand no further than the extent to their environment. At CRAM, our workbook series, we tend to focus on a child's conduct. So therefore, we're focusing on the proactive side, the character formation, changed behavior. That's really what we're all about at CRAM. And conduct And character formation is influenced by beliefs, morals, faith, and that's basically the principles undergirding what the CRAM, the Christian Resource and Academic Manual Workbook Series is all about. So that's probably the nutshell of what I want readers to gain from CRAM.
All right, wow. This is so rich and it's so exciting because, you know, whoever is watching, they see the diversity in you as Christian authors. We have a Christian nonfiction author, we have a Christian fiction, inspirational fiction author, and we have a children's book author, but you're all writing for that same purpose and you're using it as a tool for Christian ministry. This is awesome. So I have a question for you. What pearls of wisdom could you share with an aspiring writer?
Well, one of the first things that I would like to share with an aspiring writer is do your research. You spend more time researching your material than you go writing. Research, research, research. Now, the reason I stress research, the deeper you delve into your subject matter, the more you're going to find. So you're going to have to compile your material to make sure that you get enough to keep the reader interested, as I like to say, to whet his or her appetite, to make them want to just not put the book down, but to continue to the next chapter. That's number one. Number two, make sure you stick to the scriptures. Understand the scriptures that you're reading. Understand the material that you're using. And number three, use the vast number of tools that are available to you. There are any number of tools that you can use to get your book written.
I just have to say I totally agree with Apostle because research is very important. And I also have a belief. I believe that everyone really has a story to tell, whether it is a how-to book or a novel or life experiences. And if in your heart you believe God is asking you to write a book, go for it, do it, make it happen. You may not feel confident, but God will connect you with the people that you need to help you turn it into something beautiful or even miraculous. He will give you experts on editing, on grammar, on sentence structure. He will give you what you need to accomplish the dream, desire, the goal that he put in your heart and you are longing so much to do. So start typing, start recording, and just get it down. Tell your story.
Sometimes I feel like one of those aspiring writers because I've only been doing it for a little bit, but I would have to say passion. Passion is what fuels me. Passion to, I always say this, that what we teach children or what we fail to teach them for that matter is what they take into the world. It's what their contribution to society will be. So the passion in order to impact their lives, to go out and be just sustainable, functioning, good-hearted, moral individuals is where I start. And I started with children. So passion is really the big thing for me.
All right. I want you to talk also, we're wrapping up, but I just want you to give me a brief answer on why it's so important to use writing as a tool for Christian ministry.
I find it so important because it's educational. My people perish for lack of knowledge. If we can put it in book form where they can understand it, we can make it as plain as a child can understand, we can learn something. From the oldest to the youngest, we have a variety of authors here that have a variety of platforms to write. The Bible is the greatest book that's ever been written and ever read. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible to inform you what God wants you to do.
I want my tool to be simple so that no matter if a person has a college degree or if that person did not finish high school, that person can read my book and still be ministered to. It is a tool that hopefully will draw them closer to Christ, draw them closer to forgiveness, draw them closer to understanding the love of God and confession of sin. So no matter what I write about, I want to make sure I include this as a tool to draw Christians closer to Jesus.
Why use writing as a tool? The written word lasts. You know, I mean, you look at what we're all basing our writings off of, the Bible. The written word is here, and it's here forever, and it's here long after we're gone. And I think that's, for me, that's the biggest thing, and that's probably the biggest influence, because it will always be here.
Wow, I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this panel discussion today. This was just amazing. And for our viewing audience, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to remind you that each of these authors will be on tour with Christian Authors on Tour in 2021. So I want to encourage you to visit the website, www.christianauthorsontour.com. You also, please be sure to stay tuned. Once this is over, you will be able to see the contact information for each of these authors. And if you aren't able to get it there, you can also go to the website, www.christianauthorsontour.com. We're so excited and honored that you were able to share with us today. And we're excited to be part of the 2020 virtual Harlem Book Fair. What a historic moment. And until next time, Apostle Willett, everybody, thank you so much. Take care. Are you a Christian author on fire for God and committed to using writing as a tool for Christian ministry? If so, you should consider joining Christian Authors on Tour. Give us a call, 800-929-1418.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Apostle Charlene Knight, and I am in Rochester, New York. And I would like to share with you just a little bit about me. And the title of my book is Moral Injury: Shattered, Wounded, Broken, Bags Packed, Undeniably Without Consent. I know you're probably wondering, what is moral injury? I'm glad that you asked that question non-verbally. Moral injury is a wound that an individual experiences that is silent. And it comes about because they have either observed or they have participated or were a perpetrator themselves in a situation that they are ashamed of. And as a result of that, they find themselves filled with guilt and shame, and now are unable to distinguish between what's right and what's wrong, as they once knew. My focus in my book, it talks about women veterans. I am a woman veteran. I served in the United States Air Force for 5 years on active duty. And in that, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that it's not just something that I heard, but also, I also had some experiences myself. And so in my book, I'm talking about the atrocities that women incurred, past, present, and current, those that are currently serving, that still are being, shall I say, overwhelmed and carry this guilt. And they're like in a cave, if you will, and they need to get out. There's a story that they need to tell. It's a pain that they're unable to even put words to. So my hope, by sharing my book and also my story, that those that have been in the military or are currently serving, those churches, pastors, leaders, counselors, therapists, will begin to have a deeper compassion for women veterans. And I'm by no means attempting to negate the pain and suffering of our male counterparts. But the information regarding women veterans is so sparse. And I just wanted to focus on us. And as I think about that, there's so many counselors and so many therapists and so many even family members that I've spoken with that have no clue about the military service. We have post-traumatic stress disorder, military sexual trauma, all of these painful circumstances that women constantly find themselves struggling with, being in that vacuum, being in that hole, wondering, how can I get out? And the big piece of that is the unforgiveness. I began to be inspired to write my book is because I had the opportunity to work on the National Veterans Crisis Line. And oh my God, there were so many calls that came in. Many of these women were serving currently, but were afraid to share because they did not want to be incriminated or lose time in service or be punished. And so, because when they call in, they don't have to identify themselves. Many of them opened the door, and that inspired me to say, you know, there's something going on here. Later on, in some discussions and some treatment circles, we determined that we needed to have a women's crisis line. Because in order for them to share their story freely, they needed to be able to talk to another woman, which is another reason why I have recently elected to obtain my PhD in psychology. Because I want to be able not only to talk about what the trauma may be and what the pain and the atrocities, and listen to the stories of women as they share, but I wanted to be able to give or understand a holistic perspective so that I can undergird, not only hear the story, but also be able to therapeutically have an interdisciplinary view by speaking with others, individuals that have encountered veterans, and also to learn some strategies of how to help those women resume their lives as normal, whatever that would mean for them individually. And there's a spiritual piece that I'm hoping that these women begin to get reconnected, that they realize that God still loves them and it's not their fault. Sometimes circumstances happen, situations, or influences. And before an individual knows, they're pulled in and have no way in their own to come out. So I am excited. I'd like to share with you the cover of my book. And on my book, you will see that there's a rose there. And in the rose, there are 5 images. There's a girl that is very, very, shall I say, naive, showing she's got to be about 12 or 13, at a very innocent time in her life. And as life moves on, she becomes a young lady and as a professional. So as her profession turns into her desire to become a military soldier, so she joins the military. And while in the military, she becomes married. So the stress of life and all trying to balance the emotion, the trauma, the atrocities, the silent wounds that she's carrying. You'll see that she begins to become, shall I say, at the things and the thoughts that she's having. And so you'll see that she begins to cover her ears and she's saying, no, no. And then, even though she's not an old woman, eventually she becomes humped over because the burdens are overwhelming. So I'm hoping that as I've shared about my book and my inspiration for writing the book is to see other women healed, delivered, and set free by the power of God. Those of you that may be interested in purchasing my book, I have a website that you're free to go out on. It is called BraveDiamondWarriors.com. BraveDiamondWarriors.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your time. God bless you.
Hey, I'm Dave Travis. I'm here today with Carla Maxwell Ray.
Hi, how are you,
It's so
Dave?
good to be with you because we're talking about your new book, 5 Pillars to a First Class Life.
Yes.
And I've read the book. And it opens with a story that kind of is the defining moment that kind of guides the book along. And I want you to tell that story. It's a great story about Sean.
Oh, yes. Well, my husband and I live very conservatively, as you will read in the book, so that we can give generously to help college students. And so my husband wanted to take a trip. And he says, I'm going to ride in first class. So I said, oh, no, sweetheart. We give money away to our church and to different well-deserved organizations. He says, you ride first class all the time, but I don't. I've never ridden in first class, so I'm going to ride in first class. So he's the first in first class, despite my protest. And on the plane, as the coach passengers come on, Sean comes on. And Sean gives my husband a bump. And they exchange cards. Business is going well. Family's well. And Sean goes back to coach. And a couple of weeks later, we get a call from a colleague. And he says, did you hear about Sean? And we say, no, is Sean okay? And he says, is Sean okay? Obviously, you didn't hear. And we're like, so So he tells us that Sean actually sold his business to a Fortune 500 company for over $100 million. Well, Dave, I look at my husband and I said, you may be in first class on the airplane, but I'm gonna sit next to Sean and coach and live a first class life.
And so all through this book, you talk about living a first class life.
Yeah.
You've got 5 kind of guiding principles. But before we go there,
okay,
I want them to know a little bit about your background. You've served some marvelous organizations. We're actually filming this today in Atlanta.
Yes.
And you lived here in Atlanta for a while, and you served some of our most prominent institutions here in Atlanta, such as
Spelman College with Janetta B. Cole. Also went to, after Spelman's campaign was so successful, went to Morehouse and solicited and closed the first $1 million gift to Morehouse. And then Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the national office, heard about my work and brought me on to head up the Southeast and individual giving. And there we had a great campaign. And then the University of Maryland moved Rob and me up to Maryland to help conclude the $1 billion campaign there. So it's been a ride.
So your experience in helping really the 2 leading, I think, I'll speak for my city, Atlanta.
Yes.
The 2 leading historically Black colleges and universities,
Yes.
One for men, one for women, of course.
Yes.
Is just a tremendous work. And you've joined the Generis team in the last few years.
Oh.
And what you do is you help coach churches now in the area of generosity.
Absolutely, and Christian nonprofits.
And Christian nonprofits,
yes.
So what are the keys to coaching churches in this whole area?
Well, one of the keys is focusing on the pastor and the circle of leadership. We've all got to go higher in our generosity journey. And because, Dave, my husband and I have been through that ourselves and our local church, we actually meet with the leaders and take them on the generosity journey so they can be empowered to guide others through that journey.
And you're from a family of pastors. Your husband's a pastor.
Yes.
Also
Yes.
a businessman.
Yes.
And was it your grandmother?
My older sister.
Older
is
sister.
a pastor, yes, and several relatives. So we're strong believers in the kingdom of God. However, this generosity work really aligned with what I did previously in the philanthropic area because it connected fulfilling your passion and funding it.
So I need you to go read the book to learn more about Carla's life because it's not been all Cinderella tales.
No.
Because there have been some down moments in your life. With tragedy, with financial hurdles,
yes.
But you've got this philosophy in the book about the 5 pillars that helps people despite their circumstances.
Yes.
Really,
yes.
To live a first-class life. Just share a couple of the pillars with us, just so they get an idea.
Yes. Well, there are 5 pillars, and the way that it organically developed is I would just write. I would write to you about my journey, or about happenings and about the Word of God. And so when God laid on my heart, as a result of some client work, to write this book, the blogs actually just separated into 5 categories. And one is being a masterpiece, just a striving to be first and excellent. God put us here to be masterpieces. Another is to be resilient. Life happens. You're going to get the rug pulled out, and you're going to lose some people who you care deeply about. And how you can take what they've poured into you and carry it forward.
So that's 2 of them. And I was very inspired. And so one reason I think that people would read this is because they want to be inspired.
Yes.
But there's also some practical helps.
Yes, yes. So lots of couples in particular, or people who are trying to make difficult decisions, life decisions or fiscal decisions. They need some type of guide. So there's actually a quantitative decision tree that I've lifted and crafted for you to use to actually make a quantitative decision on some difficult things that may be emotionally charged and financially hurtful. So those are some of the things. And then there are just tons of recommendations that you do in lifestyle changes, like consignment shopping. Don't you like my St. John?
And the
From a
shoe?
consignment store.
Yeah.
Yes. It's wonderful that Goodwill now has a designer section just for us.
Yeah, and I loved, and we've already talked today about some other things in there that we've learned in our own family to have fun with,
Yes.
but also to have nice things
Absolutely.
at 10% of the cost.
Yes.
So I know the reason we're doing this video is to help our Generis clients. Why would the clients of Generis love to use this book as a resource?
Well, first, it came from a client. So I was sitting around and we were talking about the needs of the church. You see, when we consult here at Generis, Dave and I and 40 others, when we consult with a church, we try to take their DNA and customize what is best for them to advance and their generosity. And when I was dealing with this church, they were frustrated because they really didn't have a resource that dealt with generosity and also dealt with fiscal management and held them accountable. And so I had a eureka moment. Really, God gave me this inspiration where he told me to write a first-class life because everyone deserves in his kingdom to live that way.
Yeah, and I want you to know the book is deeply personal because, like you say, it's formed from your journal thoughts. And so there's a presentation of one of the pillars and a little bit of teaching, but then there are some reflections based on things that have happened in your life that aren't always so pretty.
No.
Or resulted in God being glorified, but they were hard things.
Very hard, very difficult hard.
And so I think you're going to enjoy it just from the inspirational standpoint. If you'll go and read it, that's 5 Pillars for a First-Class Life. They can get it on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon.com, 5 Pillars of a First-Class Life.
And I also know you're out speaking to this, to church groups, to women's groups, to business groups, to sorority groups.
Yes, fraternities and alumni associations. Everyone is gravitating. In fact, at my alma mater last week, I sold out of the book. It's just so important that we deal with some of the whys of what's happening in our finances because finances are simply a symptom of what's truly happening in our lives. And God wants to go and heal and lift us higher so that we can be generous in his kingdom.
Great. So I want you to go right now. Go to Amazon, go to 5 Pillars of a First-Class Life by Carla Maxwell Ray. Order it today.
Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It is the Harlem Book Festival. It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., and it is a pleasure for me to be able to come to you here at the Harlem Book Festival. It has been a wonderful experience. And for those that have not been able to make the actual in-person book festival, you certainly at this virtual experience are in for a phenomenal time. I know you've probably been all around, met just a vast amount of authors that have been a part of this festival. I'm just here. I'm just happy to be a part of it. I want to thank the Christian Authors on Tour. I want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for allowing us to be able to be a part of the of this extremely important event. So I'm here. I'm the president and CEO of JNF Enterprises, and what we are is a distribution, publishing, and business consulting firm located in Baltimore, Maryland. But today I'm actually here just to talk about the books that I have that we that we actually have written, that I've written, but then also we actually publish for other authors as well too. I am the author of 7 books right now, and I have 2 more books coming out. They should be coming out one next month, and then one will be following that in the following months. The title of those 2 books, one is Ministry That Impacts, which is by Rethinking Church. I am one of the co-authors of that particular, and then I'm the co-author of another book as well, The Soul of a Man, Part 3. I am the author of other books as well too, and I'll talk a little bit about those. I have 2 books of poetry, 3 books of poetry, I'm sorry, 3 books of poetry that I've written, The Inner Soul, Volume 1 and 2, and then I also have this one, which is Vibes and Sounds, The Poet Chronicles, Volume 1, which I'm very proud of. And I might read a quick poem there before we get finished. But I also have a book or 3 books that are part of my Building the 21st Century company series. And what those books are focused on, the first book, The Customer's Not Always Right, focuses actually on the business world. You know, we've been told that the customer is not always right. Well, this is my take on the customer. The customer is not always right. And what I mean by that is companies need to ensure that that they do a couple of things to make sure that their customers and clients are taken care of. And it's about creating a healthy work environment, maximizing your productivity, and then also increasing your bottom line. So that was the first book out of that series. The second book is Young and Gifted, the next generation of entrepreneurship. And what that book focused on was actually 21 entrepreneurs under the age of 40 who were not in music, sports, or entertainment. And what I did with that book, I wanted the entrepreneurs that I profiled, I wanted them to talk about their backgrounds, their histories, how they became entrepreneurs, what made them want to become entrepreneurs, their particular industries that they were a part of, how they saw it when they first came in, where they saw it now, and then where they saw it in the future. So I had them just talk about a little bit about themselves and that entrepreneurship journey that they were on, that they're on right now. And then the third part of that series, which I love as well too, which is the book that I'm here to talk about today a little bit more, is The Art of Leadership. As you can see, that success strategies for the 21st century leader. And what I did was I talked about leadership from 5 different perspectives in this book. I talked about the leadership in the family, in education, government, business, and the church, and what it is to be a leader in either all of those categories or in one of those particular categories or areas, because those to me are the 5 pillars of our community. When you think about the community is comprised of the family, it's comprised of the educational system, it's comprised of the government, which would be your representatives that you have for that particular area that you're in, the business, what businesses are in that particular area, in that community, and then the church, what part the church plays in all of those, or the connection that the church has with all of those areas in the community, and with the community. And as leaders, we have to understand what our role is, whether it's in the family, you know, what role do you play as a leader in your family? What role do you play as a leader in education? What role do you play as a leader in government? What role do you play as a leader in business? And what role do you play as a leader in the church? And then each of those collectively, because in each of those areas of your life, you're going to be called to be a leader, or you're called to be a leader. And leader, actually, I have an acronym that what leader stands for, and it's LEADER. But here's the definition of what I have come to find, the characteristics of a leader, and it has to do with the word leader. First, as a leader, you're a listener. You are a listener and a learner. What are you learning? As a leader, what are you learning? What are you constantly feeding yourself so that you're able to pour into others? We as leaders feed ourselves to be able to pour into others. The first E, I should say, stands for empowering. Who are you empowering? As a leader, you should always be empowering someone, whoever it is that is a part of your circle of impact. You should be empowering them to do something, be more, do more. The A in leader is for assisting. Who are you assisting in your leadership position? Are you assisting them to be better? Are you assisting them to want better? So those are just a couple of things that we talk about in these books. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Harlem Book Festival. My name is Leroy McKenzie Jr. You can connect with me on jnfenterprises.com and on Facebook, JNF Enterprises LLC. We appreciate you. I thank you for tuning in.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is author Sherabim Joy, and I am so ecstatic to be here for this amazing opportunity to share in the 2020 virtual Harlem Book Fair. A special acknowledgement and thank you to our host of this amazing event, Max Rodriguez. Thank you for having me. Also, a special thanks to Lynn Pinder, who is the founder and CEO of Christian Authors on Tour, a wonderful organization that I am a part of. Again, I am truly appreciate this time that I have been allotted to share with you a little bit about myself along with my literary works. I am a Christian author. I write both fiction as well as nonfiction. I am also a children's book author. My first children's book will be available in the next few months. For today's presentation, we're just going to focus on those works that have already been published, and I'm going to start with my 2 fiction titles. My first Christian fiction book is entitled After the Benediction. I am very, very proud of this book and just excited about how well it has been doing. After the Benediction has won the 2020 Christian Indie Award, and I'm just humbled that I was chosen, or I should say my work was chosen to receive this honor. This has been my first award, so I'm quite excited about it. What's After the Benediction about? After the Benediction centers around J.C. Joyner. J.C. Joyner is an evangelist. J.C. Joyner was a pre-K kid. She was raised by her father, Bishop Lofton. Bishop Lofton taught J.C. the fundamentals of Christianity as well as how to live holy. There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of regulations. She wasn't allowed to do a lot of things growing up because she was told that the hand of God was on her life. And yes, it was on her life. But as J.C. grows older, as a teenager, something terrible takes place. Her father, the bishop, the one that taught her to be who she is, found himself caught up in a scandal that divided the church that he founded and pastored. It was a scandal that caused an irreparable or seemingly irreparable rift between J.C. and her father that will last for years to come. J.C. continues on in the ministry. She becomes an international evangelist. She has stood on platforms that many preachers would only dream of. Not unaccustomed for her to stand before tens and thousands on a weekly basis. JC's married. JC has a son. JC is loved and admired and envied by many. It looks like she has it all together. But what people don't know about JC is that after the benediction, JC struggles with a severe case of depression to the point that she seriously considers suicide. JC blames what she went through with her father for her struggle. JC is considering walking away from the ministry and even walking away from God. She is blaming the things in her marriage and everything that she finds wrong about her husband. That's the problem. JC does not see herself as the problem until she is confronted by what I call an ordained spiritual eye. A spiritual eye from a woman of God that's not by any means intimidated by JC's title, her position, her popularity. None of that matters. This woman of God approaches JC and tells JC the truth. She tells JC what JC doesn't want to hear, and JC is now at a place where she has to make a decision about what she believes. I encourage you to read this book. I wrote the book and I was convicted. I wrote the book and I had to repent. If you have been in the house of God or a part of the ministry for any amount of time, I encourage you to read this book. This book will teach you and cause you to do some introspection and to make you really ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Have I lost my passion? Have I lost my zeal? Did God really tell me to do this, or am I doing what people said I had to do? This book will bring you to a place of closeness with God if you would allow it to. There's a lot of humor in the book. There's a lot of scandal in the book. But like I said, there's redemption in the book, and it will bless your life if you take the opportunity to read it. So please pick up a copy of After the Benediction. You won't be sorry. My second novel that I want to share with you this evening is Mima's Pretty Little Black Girls. If you love to pray, or you know someone that loves to pray, if you had a praying grandmother, I encourage you to get a copy of Mima's Pretty Little Black Girls. Mima's Pretty Little Black Girls will encourage you to continue to pray, to persevere in prayer, to warfare in prayer, regardless of what it looks like. Many times we pray for our family and they grow up and they do the opposite of what we taught them and what we prayed for. Such is the case in these 5 young women. They get involved in drugs. They get involved in all kinds of lifestyle. But Mima prayed. Mima was their grandma. Will Mima's prayers prevail over the lives of these children that she raised and labored over? Or will the enemy win? The only way for you to find out, because I'm not going to tell you, is you got to pick up a copy of Mima's Pretty Little Black Girls. Next, I would like to introduce you to my first Christian nonfiction work entitled Life Won't Wait. This book is encouragement and empowerment for single women that desire to be married, but may have found themselves at a place of discouragement, feeling as if God has forgotten about you and feeling as if this time of singleness in your life, that there is no purpose to it. I come to let you know today that's not true. I have some words of encouragement, empowerment to cause you to wait on God. I know you said I've been waiting for years, but I don't want you to lose patience in the waiting room. I don't want you to give up God in the waiting room. There's a chapter in here about the waiting room. This book will bless your life if you pick it up and read it, or give it to a single Christian woman that needs just a little bit more encouragement and empowerment during this time of transition before God sends her the right one. My second nonfiction work is called Heart of a Woman: Motherhood, Marriage, Ministry, and Money. This book centers around encouraging women to find a place of balance in your life. Many of us, we wear, as they say, many hats, and in the process, we forget about ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves mentally. We don't take care of ourselves physically. We don't get our annual checkups like we're supposed to, because we are so constantly pouring into others. This book will help you and remind you, don't lose yourself. Be the wife, be the mother, be the professional, be the preacher. God has called you to be the minister, but make sure you take care of yourself. It'll teach you how to pray for your children. It will teach you how to pray for your husband and not about your husband. There's a difference. If you want to know the difference, you need to pick up this book. It'll teach you how ministry is everywhere. It's beyond the pulpit. I I have examples. You need to pick up a copy of this book. And single ladies, I've got you in this book too. There's a special chapter for you that's entitled Walking Over Diamonds to Pick Up Glass. You don't want to settle and do that. Please, please don't do that. Also, it'll teach you before you say I do. Understand the marriage vows. I break them down. So if you're thinking about saying I do, single women, you need to read this book. Thank you all so much for your time today. I look forward to building an author and reader relationship with you. You can contact me anytime on my website at www.cherubimjoy.com. That information will be displayed once I have done my presentation and on all social media platforms. Again, thank you for this time, and I look forward to a growing relationship with you.
I am Dr. Loretta Young Wright. I am in Chicago, where I have been educated and began my writing career, past social worker, administrative principal. And in my work with parents, I do know that and as a parent, I do know that parenting can be stressful. And that was the emphasis for this book. That is why I wrote it, so that it can help others. And I am convinced that it will edify, entertain, and inspire those who get an opportunity to read it. I wanted to let you know that there's a couple of excerpts I wanted to go to be able to share with you some of what is in the book. There are several stories that are authentic, coming from volunteers who submitted their story. And one of the hardest things to do was to convince people that they had a story that was important enough to share and that could help someone else. And once I got rolling with that, the stories I got were just really, really heartfelt. So I'll read you some excerpts from some of those. And then one of them is called Taken, and that is story 2. It is called Taken. And it says, one day, my 18-year-old son told me he was getting married. And once I got over the shock of that statement, I pushed aside the 1,000 things that were on my mind. Standing in mental anguish, I asked him whether he was talking about the 30-year-old that he had introduced to me. And so this story was contributed by a parent who had raised a couple of children, who saw that this young man of hers was not going in the direction that she wanted. But you know what? She stuck it out. She supported him. She did not break the relationship, even though it was very, very difficult. And she triumphs through that situation. And that is how we have to encourage one another and inspire one another. You know, we have just come out of a pandemic, and I'm trusting that, you know, we're really out for good and that we will see it over and done with. But we were in the house for over a year with our movement curtailed, with our inability to contact one another and touch one another. And I hope that taught us that relationships are important. All relationships are important. Some are toxic, and of course you need to avoid those. But if you have family members or friends, these people are important to you. So do hear what they're saying as they talk with you. Make sure you're giving the necessary hugs and encouragement to others so that they could go forward with their lives. And this is one of the things I wanted to do. As I came up, my mom and her sisters would visit one another, get up in the bed with one another, talk about what their issues were, and provide support for one another. And one of the things I found in working with the Chicago Public Schools is that that was not true for everyone. You know, some people do not have auntie available. Some people do not have grandma available in the way that they could support them in daily activities. And so it becomes important then that we share our information, our stories, our wisdom, so that we can help and inspire others. So I do believe that all will be inspired, even though the book is focused towards parents, from infants to young adults, because the stories do range in that way, anywhere from domestic violence to child sexual abuse. That's what the story is, a broad range of the stories, but it is important for everyone to read. And so if there's not one specifically related to you, it may be of a friend or a cousin or someone who you know may be having that experience, and you can say, girl, we're going to overcome this. We're going to triumph over this. So let me share one more excerpt with you. This one is from story 13. It's called Me Pregnant? No Way.
For the third time, ma'am, your test is positive. The woman behind the big desk slowly rose from her chair with a very stern look directed at me and raised her voice. And so here is a mom who had all of her other plans going for school, for her new apartment, and she's getting ready to live her life. And then here comes this little bundle of joy who was just a real shock to her. And so she had to overcome that. And once again, give up what it is you had in mind. Maybe this isn't exactly the life in the way that you planned it, but you can make it through and you can be successful and you can help others with your story and with your life. And so I just want you to know that you can obtain Morning Joy easily. You could go to the website. My website is www.lorettayoungwright.com. That is www.lorettayoungwright.com. So LORETTAYOUNGWRIGHT.com. And you could reach me also through Yahoo email, and I'd be more than happy to return your emails. If you show any interest, I am extremely grateful. And so my email address is lyoungwright@yahoo.com. lyoungwright@yahoo.com. So that's a lowercase l YOUNGWRIGHT@yahoo.com. I'll be looking forward to your reaching out to get a copy of the book and also giving me feedback. My information is contained in the book as well, giving me feedback on what it is you think. And maybe you'd have a story you want to continue. We can do a volume 2. You want to contribute a story, we'll do a volume 2. But I think you'll enjoy it. I think that just the face of the book is so inviting and warm. You see this young woman with her baby, and you know that this looks like somebody I might have seen before, you know, somebody around the corner, somebody I've seen in the store, but just regular people making it through life, trying to have and experience some of God's joy. And so this is what I do want for you. I thank you so much for listening to me and being with us today. You take care of yourself and get in touch with me, lyoungwright@yahoo.com.
When I'm walking down the street, people are looking at me. What they see is a masterpiece created by the King.
You are different by design. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I may not look like you or you me, but that's the way it's supposed to be. That'll be you, that'll be me, that'll be different than unique. Run through the crowd with your head up high, show off what your maker can do. That'll be you, that'll be me, that'll be different and unique. Believe me, your beauty is more than skin deep, but let's sing its glory shine through. You are beautiful, you are blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I know. You're free from people, free from yourself. There's liberty in Christ. You are different by design. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I may not be like you or you me, well that's the way it's supposed to be. That'll be you, that'll be me, that'll be different and unique. Run through the crowd with your head up high, show off what your maker can do. That'll be you, that'll be me, that'll be different and unique. Believe me, your beauty is more than skin deep, but let's sing its glory shine through. I dare you, I dare you to take my hand. We'll run together and not look back. Keep our eyes on heaven.
Mad because we got away. Let slavery come back in the mall. They'll be on that porch. Welcome home. Get your rest. You got to go to those 12 jobs in the morning. Your room is just like it was. We haven't changed it. But what about the neighborhood? No, your neighborhood's our neighborhood.
Sunday, July 18th, Projects Millions More Movement and the Tight Knit Group present the Paul Mooney Love Tribute Comedy Show and Celebration, featuring the world famous Mooney Twins, hosted by Larry Lancaster, with special guests Troy Rawlings and the Mistress of Ceremonies, Eartha Harris. Join the Mooney Twins, sons of comedy icon, culture influencer, and civil rights voice Paul Mooney, as they celebrate their father's life and legacy with tributes and untold stories of the legend, Paul Mooney. You don't want to miss this. Music provided by DJ 5-Star. Oh yeah. All taking place at Magooby's Joke House, Timonium, Maryland. Doors at 4 p.m., showtime 5 p.m. Get your tickets now. Tickets just $20 in advance, more at the door. Sponsored in part by DTLR. Tickets available now and selling fast. Tickets available at Mondawmin Mall, Towson, in the Inner Harbor Gallery DTLR locations. Purchase online tickets now at Eventbrite. Paul Mooney Love Tribute. For tickets and more information, call or text 443-655-7198. That's 443-655-7198. Sunday, July 18th, the Paul Mooney Love Tribute Comedy Show and Celebration. Be there.
Max, wow. That's all I can say is wow.
I got to mirror that. Wow. I just love your enthusiasm for everything that we've just seen.
Yes, and I hope the viewers, I hope you enjoyed all of the authors that were featured today. Please, 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 you heard their website information. Hopefully you were jotting it down. Reach out to them, go to their websites, buy their books, read their books, support these authors. Max, we're gonna close out, wrap up today, and we're gonna be back right and fresh tomorrow afternoon, right?
With another great day at the Harlem Book Fair and in partnership with the Christian Authors on Tour. Amen.
Amen. See you tomorrow, everybody.